This is The Cannamom Show, a podcast chronicling the inspiring stories of real women in the emerging cannabis industry. Your host, Joyce Gerber, mom, lawyer, political activist, has been speaking with women from coast to coast and around the world who are leaders in the revolution of cannabis and caregiving, continuing on her mission to lift up the stories of the women creating the cannabis industry by sharing their canna stories with you. So go make yourself a cup of tea or roll yourself a joint, sit back, and learn something new about this magical plant on The Cannamom Show with Joyce Gerber.
From the Tip O'Neill Studios in North Cambridge, Massachusetts, it's The Cannamom Show. Now here's your host, Joyce Gerber.
All right, so I was trying to be cool like you, and I usually smoke joints, but I got this new vape machine for flower. Wow. I like flower. Okay. I know it's very high tech, and you can like set the temperature and all this stuff. It's cool.
So I didn't see, for our non-YouTube viewers, I usually blow a puff of smoke during the intro, but I can't see what you're doing because the smoke's in my way. So
I know. Usually I just hold up my cup of tea, but today I thought I would join you, but it didn't work. It failed. So I'll try again next week. My smoke did not come out. So yeah, I know. I've tried vaping flower off and on over the years. It's much lighter. It's like a different kind of sensation. But it
is a little more convenient, right? Because you don't need a lighter. And
it doesn't smell anyway. So I've never really adapted to it. My husband has a PAX, and I don't know. So last week I'm like, I'm going to invest in a good one, because part of the issue with vaping flower is it has to be at a certain temperature for the terpenes. It's like for medical patients, it's actually really good. So this thing actually, you can set your temperature. I know you can't see it, anyone. It's a little bulky, but it's a very small hit. You just put the flower in the very top, and I do feel like it's a different. And I've been using it for about a week. I feel like it's a different. It's better for me, I think, especially if you consume during the day. I feel like it gives you that like anti-anxiety thing, or maybe the mood lift, or even maybe pain, without some of the other stuff, because it's a little bit lighter. I think that's true.
Yeah, I've found that in the past when I've tried those, I mean, I think the one you're holding up looks pretty high tech. Mine was kind of basic, but this is like 5 years ago. I imagine it's advanced. It was kind of clunky, and you had to reload. You had to reload it all the time, and it just wasn't perfect. So
I know vaping's come a long way. I do think it's probably, especially, I'm an older person now. I'm 59, so. It could be. I think it's an interesting option, and I've been talking to more doctors who really do talk about the benefits of vaping it, because you're not burning off a lot of the flavonoids, the terpenes. The other things are actually good for you, because when you just smoke it, it's pretty hot, and it's just it's a different thing.
Vaping isn't just for annoying millennials anymore. It can be for anyone.
Us seniors, we're coming in. All right. So do you have a good weekend, Dave?
Yes, I was in Madison, Wisconsin, because my son is on was on the UMass Ultimate Disc team. Was the Ultimate Disc Championships, Madison, Wisconsin. Last year they went to the final game and lost to North Carolina in a tight game. This year, not as good. They lost. I mean, they played 5 games. They won 3. They lost 2, but that eliminated them. But my son Griffin Yaz was the leading scorer on UMass's disc team. So. It was fun. And Madison's a nice town. I had never been there.
Is there like what happens to disc players as they grow up? Is there like a whole senior, like now that he's out of college?
There is. Griffin has made the roster of a professional disc team called the Boston Glory. They play in Medford.
And they have a name. Do you know like the women's ice hockey team in Massachusetts or Boston doesn't have a name? And they're really good too.
They had a name. And I'm forgetting. It was something like, it was a play on Patriots or something, but I don't know.
I don't know. I heard Bill and Marjorie talking about the other day. I'm sports stupid. All right. Whatever. All right. That's good. It was a nice weekend. It was actually
what did you do? Sorry. What did you do?
I played tennis and rode my bike. I did all the normal things I do every weekend. I don't do anything different.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's my normal my personal life. Right. All right. So what else? All right. Oh, actually, so today I'm going to make an announcement. We've talked a little bit about it. I did put something on Instagram, but we are making the official announcement that this is the last regular season of the Cannamom Show.
No.
I know.
Oh, Oh, it's such a sad moment.
I know. But it's not over yet. We still have 4 more shows, so don't stop listening. And keep coming back. And we've had 5 years, 5 seasons, Dave. I mean, that's a long time. And I was trying to gather the stats this morning.
Great. Yeah. I mean, it's been a great run. 5 years is about 4.5 years longer than most podcasts last. And you've got just an awesome library of info that will live forever.
Yeah. I mean, here's some stats. So by the end of season 5, we will have produced over 180 episodes, introduced you to hundreds, because some of those shows have 2, sometimes those shows have 3 women, hundreds of women in the cannabis industry. We have had over 40,000 downloads, and just this year, because I had a new website, we had over 25,000 visitors to the website. So people are interested in the topics we're sharing.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been a triumph. It's been a labor of love.
It has been. And, these women's stories, I mean, I really do believe they're the foundation of what this industry is going to be if they can keep, in their leadership positions, like this woman we're going to talk to today. And I'm going to still be involved. I like the Parabola Center. I've been doing some advocacy work, some policy work. There's a doctor in Boston who may have me come on and help talk about women's issues with him, Dr. Kaplan, who I'm actually going to introduce you to at the end of our last episode. He said he'd come join us for a few moments. So yeah, I'll still be here. I just won't be here.
All right.
I'll be around Boston. And I don't really have.
Yeah. By the way, they used to be called the Boston Pride, the female hockey team in Boston. Maybe they're not called that anymore. I don't know.
There was something I heard on Marjorie and Jim, and they were talking about this team that had no name, and it just seemed like such a women's sports story. They're the best in the world, but they have no name.
But they have no name. Yeah. Right.
They are invisible.
Oh, well.
They're achieving. And that's the story of our lives. Speaking of which, so have you heard of the Julia Louis-Dreyfus has a new podcast, or not new, a podcast called Wiser Than Me?
I haven't heard this.
Okay,
I'm a big fan of hers. Yeah.
She interviews professionally successful older women like Vera Wang and Jane Fonda and Sally Field and Billie Jean King. I think Carol Burnett was a couple of weeks ago. I just love that she's introducing us to women who have achieved a great deal. We tend to forget women once they stop producing babies or something. I don't know what's wrong with this country, but these women have achieved a lot. Now they have a platform, and she's sharing these really great stories with, I don't know, some powerful wisdom and insight. And, it's still hard for women to do it all. We're not doing it all. There's lots of issues with childcare, all sorts of things going on. But these women really giving some good insight and looking back and trying to prove how life could look like a little bit differently than what maybe their mothers even envisioned for them.
Good for her. Yeah, there is more to her than meets the eye for maybe the casual fan who just thinks of her as Elaine, and silly Elaine at dancing really poorly. But yeah, right, her terrible dance. But
although if we do a podcast, like Can a Mom Show movie, maybe Julie Louis try, our one funny lady's playing me. Yeah.
Yes, I could see that for sure. But she really is an actress in the truest sense of the word, and a pioneer. She had a really bad experience on Saturday Night Live. There was a lot of sexism back then, and a lot of stuff that would get people canceled today. And she didn't get a lot of good juicy roles in SNL, so it was great to see her. I mean, the TV show Veep is a tour de force. I mean, it's an amazing thing, and she keeps doing great stuff. So you go, Julia.
And she has a really good mom. So what I like at the end of this, every episode, she calls her mom.
Oh, really?
They talk a little bit up because her mom, obviously is a fan to most of the people she's talking to. She has a pretty famous daughter, but I know they have this like a really sweet relationship, and I think it's cute. Whatever. If you're looking for a good podcast, you want to learn something from women who know stuff, look up Wiser Than Me.
I like it. I'm going to check it out.
All right, Julie Louis, call me if you want to, I think this will be a good.
She could be the final guest on the Can a Mom Show. If you act now, Julia.
You can act now. We'll fit you in. We'll squeeze you in if we have to.
Right.
All right. That's funny. All right. Thanks, Dave. We do have a guest. All right. So today's guest, let's introduce her. Today's guest is the founder and CEO of Goddess Growers, a cannabis edible company. Her products are in Ohio dispensaries, and she is focused on helping others achieve a lifestyle centered on peace, calm, and relaxation. She is on a mission to make female purchasers feel understood, and today's guest story is an inspiration for the aspiring entrepreneurs, especially women seeking a foothold in the cannabis industry. She leads by example by following her passion, embracing challenges, building a strong community, and advocating for change. With her dedication to creating a calmer world, today's guest and Goddess Growers are paving the way for a more mindful and inclusive cannabis experience. Please welcome to the Cannamom Show, Phoebe DePree. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Excited to have you. So, you have a Massachusetts connection, right?
I do. I was raised in Newton, Massachusetts.
All right. I was just there yesterday playing tennis.
Were you? Amazing. It hasn't changed much since I grew up there. My parents are still in the same house I grew up in, and I told them all about you. They were so excited.
Oh, that's
My mom's going to be tuning in to listen to us when it goes up on YouTube.
Awesome. All right. So, but are you in Ohio now? Where are you now?
So I'm actually based in Illinois.
Illinois.
Chicago,
Okay.
Illinois.
But
Yeah.
you're connected to Ohio. So let's just talk business. Let's just start where you started. Smart woman from Newton. You moved out there. What was your original idea when you were thinking about cannabis products? And maybe just go to your background. Like, what is your actual professional background? And then maybe how did that transition into the cannabis world?
Yeah. So originally out of college, I worked in finance and equity research at a bank in New York, and then started my own business. I think I probably fall into the serial entrepreneur category. Had 3 babies in a row. I refuse to say stop working because I actually worked harder and that time off.
Yes.
Than I ever did, like when I was like literally sleeping at the office at a bank in New York out of college. But I did.
It's a non-monetized work. That's what I talk about. It's like I'm working. It's just not monetized. And
No,
again, that kind of goes back to that issue of like caregiving. Like it shouldn't always be free, but that's a whole nother podcast. That's not what we're talking about. Okay.
Right. No, but I also do say like it was part of my training. Because if you think about it as a mom, and I won't go off on this tangent, but you have to really get used to like a fast pace with a constantly changing set of needs and nothing going your way, and at times very limited resources. So I would say actually like it made me better, faster, stronger as an entrepreneur when I did go back. And in January 2020, I have a cousin who has a vertically integrated operation in Denver, Colorado. And I saw that Illinois, my home state, was going legal. And I originally called him to see, they had an application for a craft grow license. And fast forward, that whole process was delayed. Ultimately didn't get the license. We're still waiting. But a benefit of the delay was I really had a chance to take a step back and look at the cannabis industry. I am a lifelong consumer of cannabis. It's really just helped me in a myriad of ways, mainly just to relax after a long day, or in addition to healthy diet and exercise and, great friendships. It's just a really
it's part of the package. It's part of the package. I do kind of kid that it cures everything, but it shouldn't be something people come to from desperation. I think that's really been the message of the whole process. Right. And it's just part of like anything else you would have in part of your life. This could be part of it as well. So yeah.
Exactly. Like I say to my friends, like it's in place of a glass of wine.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I had a chance to really study the industry, and I see this wide open opportunity for a brand, specifically a brand looking at anxiety and ways to relax, a lifestyle. I think as a society right now, everything is these extremes highs, extreme lows. I'm really like trying to stay in the middle and constantly just evaluate your life and have, tons of, I say like tools in your toolkit. And I agree with you. Like cannabis is not a fix all. It's really just something that you can incorporate into your lifestyle in moderation. And so that's where my brand was born is, I just see this need. I'm a mom, I'm racing around all the time. And I don't really love alcohol. It wakes me up in the middle of the night. I get a hangover. My 6-year-old wants to make pancakes at 5 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and I should be there and want to be there and fully present. But, if I go out with my husband the night before, we love to go to music concerts, whatever, and I'm having a bunch of beers or cocktails. Yeah. I just don't feel very good. But if I have an edible, just a little low dose, I have the best night. I have so much fun with my friends. And then I'm also able to get up with my children in the morning.
Functioning. Yeah. All
Right.
right. So you have this idea that they're like, a lot of these women I talk to, this is they're becoming the people they need. So they see that there's a need and they just do
Right.
it
I
because that's
saw
what
need.
that's
Yeah.
what they do. So what kind of planning did you go? So you do a little bit about cannabis. The industry is really complicated. All the laws are complicated. The legality is complicated. Making products is complicated. Getting your source is complicated. So what did you actually do? Like, where did you start for the planning? And I don't know, maybe some insights you might, now that you have gone through this, insights you might want to give to women who are thinking this is someplace they want to be. Because I do think it's a good place for women who have taken time off from the world of monetized work and have a good skill set, because cannabis is like the real world, just a little upside down. And we have everything, like we have everything everyone else has, except it's very, very specialized at this point because it's very unique. So I think it's a really good opportunity for women who want to come back into the world of monetized work and maybe find a space in it. So so what
Okay.
planning went into it, and then maybe what advice you would give to women who are looking at this industry?
Yeah. So, what went into it is I was in this period of waiting and thought, well, what can I do that I don't need a license for? And initially, I decided to dive into the cannabis space because I love cannabis, but I just wasn't seeing a product that was being marketed to me in a way that I wanted to be spoken to, and a product that looked and felt like what I wanted on shelves. So I started to research, initially, anecdotally asking people in my community how they felt about cannabis, had they consumed it, what were the pain points in their lifestyle. I love,
Did you actually do like a survey, or did you just talk to
yeah,
people?
well, no, I had a survey, I had a
Oh,
spreadsheet.
sorry.
And I really started out because I just wanted to see, like, am I the only one? Because I think at times as women, we feel like the problems we're experiencing can be unique, and we are wonderful individuals, but we are not unique, and our problems are not unique.
Yeah, and again,
And
it's the shame that's kept people quiet, so they don't talk about it. And there's all
yeah,
these women I keep meeting; they're all in their little silos, and they literally they had no idea that each other existed until this sort of community has been built. So you're actually going out talking to people, saying, "Oh, that's good. That's a good way to do it."
it was. And it was very interesting because this is like, July of 2020. Cannabis has been legal in Illinois for about 7 months, and you know, you would see people consuming, but it was like more the guys. The women, I think, were consuming possibly at home. Like I knew I was consuming. I don't necessarily talk about it. So it was like a new conversation to be having, but it kind of just went something like this. Do you consume cannabis? Oh, you do? Okay, great. Why do you consume? And I would just leave it open-ended question. Or if you don't, what's your perception of cannabis?
Mm,
And how do you relax in your
mm,
day? What are your pain points? And so I just started to educate myself specifically on women that are 35 to 55 years old. I'm 44. And so, that was just a natural point of interest for me. And I started to see this opportunity. I got enough confidence and reaction from people in my network, that I thought, I'm just going to do some research, like just read some reports.
mhm.
And there is so much research out there, and there's more to come. But really researching just the market, start, like headset reports, and just reading every article that any journalist had written and looking at the stats. And I will say that my road was windy. I didn't know immediately that I was creating an edibles brand.
Mhm.
Initially, I even looked into sexual wellness because, I thought that was kind of interesting. Then I backed away from that. And along the way, I picked up a management consultant, which I say is kind of like kept me between the rails as a startup founder.
Mhm.
It was a great way to bounce my ideas off them. They come from more traditional CPG background. Cannabis, as you've mentioned, is unique in certain ways, but it's also another business in many ways.
Mhm.
So I started to hone in on anxiety. I think as a society right now, we
Yeah.
live at like such a high clip. The expectations are so high. And as a woman, and what's expected of me, when I take a pause and look around at the women in my life, everyone is just going 9 miles an hour. And if you're not in every, helping out your community in a certain way and filling these boxes, you might feel like you're lacking. And it can create a degree of unrest internally, spiritually. And what cannabis does for me is it relaxes my body, it calms my mind so I can be more spiritually oriented, which, you hear about the mind, body, spirit a lot. And as I get older, I think about that a lot. So I at some point I started to kind of hone in on anxiety. And then I thought, okay, well, I've got 3 little girls. I love to roll a joint and I love flower. But as I, get deeper into my experience of motherhood, I can't really do that at the times that I want to consume, like at 5:00, 5:30, when, I've got like 25 homework questions. I've got to make dinner. I'm tired. So I take a gummy.
Yeah.
Then the gummy, like the dosing wasn't always consistent, which drove me crazy. Like I was getting one high one time, another, I wasn't. So I thought, okay, I want to create something that helps me take the edge off, and it meets me where I am. I want a smoker's high in an edible, and how am I going to do that? So
Well, that's an interesting. So how do you? That's interesting, because if you don't consume cannabis, you don't really understand. There's a difference between. Again, I'm not really an edibles person, honestly, and I talked about earlier. I like flower, like smoke,
Yeah.
and I've always smoked it. So the vaping is a new experience. So each time you experience this plant in your life, it can make you feel a different way. So you knew exactly what you were looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew, I do not have a science background, but I tell people that I'm very good at selling my idea and then getting people to come on. So I consulted neuroscientists and
That's
plant
literally called
therapists.
leadership. That's called leadership, people. You don't have to know everything.
Right. So, but this is like a really important message to send, because
Yeah.
I've created this company, I've raised money on this idea, and I've recruited people that are the best at what they do. And so it's possible. There's no intimidation. I used to feel very intimidated. So if you are listening and you do think, gosh, I haven't worked in some years, or how am I going? Every woman has so much talent, and it's just the way you spin it. You will be what you want to be. And there are barriers, right? Like childcare, money, all of those things play a role. And I don't discount those, but in general, taking a skill set and coming into the workforce, there's a lot to offer. So I just point that out because, I'm not coming to this with a doctorate, for example, but I had people that were very good at what they did. And I told them exactly, here's, the need state, anxiety, relaxation, the journey to calm. And I want it to be consistent. It has to be fast acting because I want it to be that smoker's high. And I also am interested in all of the compounds in the plant. We hear a lot about cannabinoids. The average American has heard of THC and CBD. There's over 120, but then there's also terpenes and flavonoids, and they play a role too.
Right.
And so I ended up, I had the science part honed in and the need state checked off. I partnered with Azuka for my fast acting ingredient.
Yep.
All FDA approved ingredients that they're using was very important to me, because this is something that people are putting into their bodies.
Right.
And then I wanted my edibles to be delicious, because I also don't like when you get the feeling you want, but it's like leaves this disgusting taste in your mouth. And so I partner with a food scientist who's one of a dozen hydrocolloid experts in the country. I chose the gummy because I believe that, I want to see, does my brand stand? Does my messaging stand? So I'm creating a known form, I'm operating in a known form to see, are people going to go in a sea of gummies and pick mine? Is my messaging going to be powerful enough? So those intentionally.
That's that's really powerful. And that is exactly the products we need. But marketing is very tricky in the cannabis industry, which I know you know that too. But let's talk a little bit about like the science. So we talked a little bit about Zuka. People may not know exactly what that is. Being explain a little bit about that is. And then the idea that you're not just taking an isolate, you're trying to create a more full spectrum product. Is that what you're saying to me?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So Azuka is a fast acting ingredient company. The CEO is a woman, Kim Rial, who I hold in high regard. And the onset from when you take my gummy is 5 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
So that was important to me because, again, I can't roll a joint and take a puff and then you get that feeling of relaxation almost immediately. It's similar. And then the arrangement of cannabinoids and terpenes and flavonoids plays a big role. And there's also other things at play, and education, I will say, is a large thing, but I'm going to get that in a minute. I don't want to talk about that.
But the science part, like, so people sort of understand, like, where, yeah.
So the science part, I am of the belief that the plant in its whole form is the best possible method of delivery. So what that means is full spectrum. When you're looking on the shelves, I always try to look for a full spectrum product, because you're getting not only the THC, but you're getting all of the other alphabet soup of naturally forming cannabinoids. And then I developed, we have a proprietary blend of terpenes and flavonoids that augment that feeling of calm that we're adding back in to my formulation. I noticed along the way that a lot of women would say they don't want to have the munchies, myself included. And so we do elevate THCV in our 5 milligram lower dose, and it should leave you feeling, net zero. So if you went in hungry, you'll still have a meal. If you weren't hungry before, the idea is that you won't be after. I also so that was kind of where we fell.
And for the line of products, are they so the terpenes you're adding in, are they for different effects, or do you have like just one line?
It's all geared towards a sense of calm, and daytime. I also didn't want to be falling asleep. What's interesting is that the THCV has the possibility of being sort of a appetite suppressant in ratio with CBD. If you have too much, it can actually trigger anxiety. So you've got to be really careful. We tested that extensively. Landed on a formulation that just gives you the offset, but it also has a focusing effect. So it's a nice daytime calming effect, which is I
say in Massachusetts, they'll list on the gummies no more than 5 milligrams. So 5 milligrams of THC usually, and then they list out maybe CBG, maybe the CBD. Is that how you list it out on yours? Like the
milligrams? That's exactly right. Yeah. I also always Parrot, everybody's endocannabinoid system is unique,
right?
And we'll have receptors in different places. And then as women, also where you are in your cycle and in your life, like monthly cycle, life cycle, plays a role. So figuring out your dose is really a process. And I say 5 milligrams low dose, but 5 milligrams I consume all the time. That's actually kind of a high dose for me during the day. Like if I don't want to be totally out of my mind, I'm going to take 2.5 milligrams. I take it half. So, but then
what I hear a lot, and I think this is true because, again, the cannabinoids that you eat are metastasized through your liver, and that impact can be different. I was talking to a nurse about this, and I have a friend who's got some liver issues. So I'm like, well, are edibles good or bad? Like, it's a different process than smoking, and it's literally a different molecule when it comes out, which is why it lasts longer. There's like a lot of, I don't understand anything really about the human body, but I talk a lot about this. So it does really impact you differently. So it's a good thing to know that even if you're a heavy smoker or a constant smoker, or, if that's your preferred method, 5 milligrams as an edible could really impact you differently, literally because of the way it goes through your body.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. And so, understanding that, and then it's also a neurological relationship. It's not a physical one. So there's this entire education, if you're not familiar with cannabis, where, alcohol is a physical relationship, affects your brainstem. If you have too much, it can literally make you stop breathing and die. Cannabis won't do that. It's more akin to the radio volume in your car. It can turn the volume way up, it can turn it way down, but it's not going to turn radio off.
That's an interesting way to think of it. That's funny.
Yeah. But it's a different, right? It's a different process. Think about that. So like a really big, huge 300-pound man might be able to tolerate very little cannabis, and a little tiny mouse of woman might be able to actually tolerate it a lot. So it's really an education process, personal, what works for you, right? And most people know, if they're consuming alcohol, they know how one drink of wine makes them feel. So that's the other piece of this, is you really have to kind of try a product in your bed at the end of the day, when you don't have to be anywhere or do anything, and see how it makes you feel. And I always say just go as low as possible to start.
So you're working, I don't know how your community feels about this. So what are you doing to talk to people about what your products are, or how they're going to add value to their life? Or we've been talking a lot more about seniors who are they're getting some publicity because they are taking cannabis and maybe it's interacting with their other medications and they're not feeling so great, but they won't really let us go into the nursing homes and talk about it. So it's a little disconnect. So what are you doing in your own community to talk about this? Because everyone I know, education is so important because we've been told a really bad story and we really have to change the narrative. And these stories are really changing how people understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been speaking to groups of women. I have about a 35-minute presentation. It's just a broad overview of the cannabis industry, methods of consumption, how to purchase cannabis from a licensed dispensary in your community.
I'm smart.
And I've been doing that in my home state of Illinois. And then ironically, we're launching in Ohio first. Illinois has taken a while to, get these craft grow licenses out, get them built out. We are going to be launching here later this year, but we launched in Ohio because we were ready to go, and we found a great manufacturer. So in that community, we have a little pamphlet that we hand out to medical patients. I think the real work is to come because Ohio is now going rec. So I am working with women. We're very community focused and working with smaller groups. Talking to a woman who has a yoga studio about speaking to some of her clients, having an evening where you can do yoga, 15-minute conversation about cannabis and, not only just methods of consumption, but literally talking about when you walk into the dispensary, you're going to be asked to see your ID. Like it's not the most hospitable experience right now when you first go in. So I find also just simple details that you might take for granted if you've been consuming for a while really go a long way. Bring some cash or if you're comfortable using your ATM card, you're going to need to do that. So those are just in my small way, any group of women, a garden club, the Y, a yoga studio. If you've got a reading, like a book club, I'll come talk to you for 15 minutes, give you some book, like a book to read. So just finding, because I think what's incredible about women is we rely on our communities. We're great marketers. If we like something, tell all of our friends about it, but we're also educators.
Yeah.
If I like a product, I tell all my friends about it.
Exactly. Which is the marketing piece. I really think this is such a missed opportunity. Again, women know how to shop. We do the shopping. That's literally what we do. And we just don't understand this product yet. And once we become brand loyal, it's going to change how this really looks. But right now, we're still out there a little confused. I literally do the same thing as you do. I bring my friends to dispensaries. I talk about this in a way that, kind of breaks it down so it doesn't feel so illicit. And introducing them to good products. And again, everything is state specific. So everything that I suggest in Massachusetts is obviously made in Massachusetts. And I know a lot of the women who are creating the products, so I can direct them to the ones that I actually know where they're being made and not necessarily by a multi-state operator that has several different bigger facilities. Anyway, so creating the brand. So what are you doing for marketing? Because again, maybe these groups are really useful. It's kind of old-fashioned marketing, one-on-one, or maybe other things that you're doing to help connect women to what you're creating.
Yes. So, I talk a lot about the ripple effect, right? You think of one action and then oftentimes you think you leave it there, but there is this incredible ripple effect. So another way we're marketing is we do pop-ups where, little table in a dispensary in Ohio and customers come in and I'll just say, do you like edibles? Are you a high dose person or low dose person? Let me tell you about Goddess Growers and tell them about our product. I want to ask about their community. I want to ask about what their pain points, what's causing them anxiety. So we're really like in this back and forth. I'm learning as much from them as I'm trying to, convey to them. And that's been our strategy. And that has been helpful in terms of getting the word out about our brand. But then even more than the brand, I just want to educate people on the merits of considering consumption of cannabis as an alternative. In addition, I always say to, healthy exercise routine and a good diet and healthy friendships and relationships in your life.
But it actually helps you because if you have less anxiety and inflammation, which is a lot of the pain points, all my friends, it's always about sleep, anxiety, and pain.
Totally.
So if you can eliminate or reduce those elements in your life, you just want to talk to people more. You do want to be engaged in the world in a more positive way. You can't even help yourself, I think.
Yeah. No. And, you mentioned nursing homes. I am dying to go and speak to the elderly about cannabis, but it is hard to gain access, and rightly so. You should really talk to your doctor if you're considering consuming cannabis and you are on some other medication, to just make sure there's no contraindication, because there is a lot of research going on. I think more to come in understanding all of the different contraindications. Also understanding the relationships of cannabinoids, the science. I mean, it's going to be a great decade ahead because now you have the capital, and the interest going into the field. So,
and even, well, I'm going to talk about this later, but descheduling, rescheduling, it's going to go to 3. I know this is going to impact the industry. No one seems to agree on how, but we are moving towards a place where it'll be easier to do research, at least. I mean, that is the goal. And I don't know, what else, what are you thinking about the move, and are you involved with any advocacy work? I know where you are. Yeah.
yes. So I'm part of CBAI, which is a lobbying organization, part of the Minority Business Associates in Illinois. And I have been following the federal regulation of cannabis. And obviously this rescheduling to Schedule 3 is a move in the right direction. But I do tell people that I'm riding a snail, and that,
That's funny.
People, I think, expect, okay, it's been rescheduled, so now our taxes next year, we're not, subject to 280. No, we're in a comment period, and then there's going to be delay. It's happening. It just may be a couple tax cycles before you actually start to see that. Now in Illinois, states are decoupling 280E at the state level, but the federal level, that'll represent some serious savings, because right now, if you have an entity that's plant touching, according to the IRS, you are subject to 280E, which is this tax code that says you can't write off ordinary business expenses like rent or, salaries for your employees.
like normal, like, again, this, if this is a business, it's a little upside down, which I keep saying, but it is just a business at a lot of levels, and it's really being treated unfairly. I think that's where we've come to. And again, alcohol and tobacco are not on the Controlled Substance Act, and those are literally poisons. So
right. So it goes to show that the perception is powerful. And that's why, I'm happy to spend the rest of my life talking about why cannabis is such a wonderful alternative to things like alcohol. And I think just as you see perception change, cannabis normalize into everyday life, then you start to see that filter through in policy, and you're starting to see this.
Starting to see it. You are starting. But we need smart people to step up and whisper in the ears of the politicians, because they don't necessarily have real understanding of what's going on. If you just hear from the business level of it, you're going to get a really different perspective than people are working maybe at the medical, or they're looking as advocates, or, the cannabis touches everything from criminal justice to cosmetics. There's a lot of people in the industry, and it can't just benefit men who want to make money. We can't do that again.
Right. Well, and acknowledging the uncomfortable truth that a lot of people have sacrificed literally their lives,
yes,
for the plant, and where it's gotten us. And now here it's become this somewhat acceptable, becoming more acceptable business. But that's also something that I come back to often. People are imprisoned for consuming cannabis, selling cannabis, and now people are making millions of dollars. So that is like an uncomfortable truth it needs to be rectified. And you do see, states working in that general direction, but I think there's a lot more work to be done.
There is work to be done. All right, let's shift completely. You are a mom. How old are your kids now, and how many? Well, you said you have 3.
3 girls.
Still have 3. You still have 3.
Still have 3. They're 11, 9, and 6.
Okay, so how does this work in your household? What do they know about it? I always talk about my cannabis awakening. My children were teenagers, so it's a whole different conversation when you're like, everything I know about pot is wrong. So your kids are a little bit younger. So what is it like in your household? And what do they know? What do they not know? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about it like I would talk about a glass of Chardonnay. So if your children see you, my children know that I developed a gummy that is for relaxation, and it has cannabis in it, and it's only for adults. I keep it pretty simple, but they know that. And I talk about it. I talk about my business. They see me working. I talk about, when I'm having a tough decision to make and how I'm making it. I think that I've never felt happier or more fulfilled. I think it makes me a better mom because I'm so fulfilled in my professional life. I tell people that a lot. When I was a stay-at-home mom, it just wasn't quite the right fit for me. And I think as a woman, finding your right fit in life is the most important part. And that can look a lot of different ways. And there's a lot of different, variables to consider for every woman. I have friends that are stay-at-home moms and they're incredibly fulfilled. And that is, and they found their way in life. So I think talking about what I do with my kids, they will tell you, like, if you see them, they say, my mom, she makes cannabis gummies and it's only for adults. I always and I talk about a lot, like, it's only for adults. It's not for kids. It's not good for their brains. I say that over and over and over. So, when they get to be teenagers, all the moms out there that have teenagers are probably like, oh, just wait. But
you have to lock your stuff away. You can't trust them.
Right. No. And I do.
But again, the other thing I hear from moms a lot in this industry, because their children have grown up with it, there is no shame connected to it. They know that they will literally say to their moms, "You need your medicine," or you seem a little cranky. Like, no one literally ever asked their mom to have another martini. Mom, go get drunker, right? Never, ever. But they can see that I was not a cannabis user when my children were young. I say I would have been a better mother. I was very busy. I was a lawyer. I was running around. I was doing all this stuff that women do. And I just kept going. And I didn't know that you could stop. Like, the pausing, that is the most powerful part of this, is that you can feel the anxiety goes away so you can be calm and be with your children, which is literally all they want you to do anyways. And then at some point they get sick of you and leave. But if you're yelling at them and pushing them away and acting like a crazy person, they're just going to stay there forever and bug you.
Oh, it has revolutionized my 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. That hour where everything bad can happen. You're kind of in a bad mood. You're tired. Your kids are a little cranky, but there's a lot of work that's still got to be done. And you want to enjoy it. My kids are in this, we're in this great phase where you don't have a baby, you don't have an adult, but they're going to be grown up and gone in no time. And I want to enjoy as much as I can. And it's hard. It's hard to balance all of that and enjoy it. And so, just a little 2 milligram gummy before I prepare dinner, help with homework, snuggle with my babies. I have the nicest night. And it's not every night. It doesn't, some nights are better than others, but it has been this wonderful occasion-based, positive aspect of my life. And then when we go out, like I mentioned, if we go out to a music concert on the weekend, I'll have maybe 5 milligrams, but then the next day I'm up bright and early with the kids. So it just plays in that balance.
So how's this working with the friends of your kid, the moms of your friends, your kids' friends' moms? Who's the mom group that you're meeting? Is this an open conversation now? My kids are in their 20s now, so yeah. And I have to say, I could go to school wearing wine mom, and people would literally cheer for me. But if I came in, if I smelled like a weed, or if I was wearing a weed shirt, people would have ostracized me. So yeah.
It's really a tricky balance. And I say, people talk about this a lot and ask that very specific question. And where I land is, it's actually, I think, less about the fact that I'm in the cannabis industry, but they're looking at everything else. So I'm on my kids' PTA board, and I'm marching the march. I'm at the soccer games, and, I'm never high to a point where I can't function, and they're watching me. And so it's more about towing the line, and I consider myself an ambassador, and showing that I'm not your perception of a stoner, this is a stoner. This is what a stoner looks like. And it's not somebody that's high and non-functioning. I actually would argue I am higher functioning. When I'm leading this rich life that, is fulfilling. And the cannabis is it's a positive aspect, and something that, is alongside a lot of other stuff, but doesn't rule me, and it doesn't bring me down either. So
I like the ambassador idea. Again, I do the same thing. I wear, I play tennis, I wear pearls, I'm on the board at my temple. I was you. Golf, I did the PTA mom thing. I am known in my community, and and this is the ambassadorship. Yeah. So so you're out there doing your thing. You're telling people you're open about it, and people can see that you're healthy. And I would say that's an argument for pretty much every woman I've interviewed. They're not just okay, not just functioning. They're really excelling, again, because they feel good. Their anxiety's gone. they feel like they can handle all the shit that's coming at them. Because a lot of times that's what shuts you down is you get home from work and you're tired and what you really want to do is lock yourself in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But what you got to do is make dinner and unpack the bags and list
Yeah. All the lunch
20,000 questions. But you have to be the calm in the storm. And if you can't be the calm in the storm, it's not going to be good for your family. So I just think that's a nice way of engaging, like saying, this is how I manage this really rough time of the day every day. Cause every mother knows it. Yeah.
It's one example, and there are other times where, if I'm having a nervous moment, and I always go back to cannabis does not fix the problem. If there's a problem that's driving the anxiety, this is just something that's going to bring you to a place where you can maybe reflect on your life more. But really, like, there's nothing that would ever replace, like, if you're having severe anxiety, see a therapist, see a psychiatrist if you need to, see your doctor. Exercise, I think diet, the food you're eating plays a big role, especially as women age and our hormones start to change. So it's really, I can't stress that enough that I'm not parroting, this is like going to change your world. And that, it's really like, in addition to all these other very foundational things that have to be in place.
And it's a tool in the toolbox. All right.
Toolbox.
Oh, actually, I have time. All right. Let's talk just a little bit more about your products. Let's talk a little bit about like what the flavor is, where people can find them if they want to connect with you. They're in Ohio now. Just kind of go through that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're in Ohio, and we have 3 flavors: sour, strawberry lemonade, sour watermelon, and mango.
Oh, yeah.
And because Ohio's medical, we do have 2 dose levels right now. The 5 milligram, which is scored crossways, so you can quarter it. So scored for easy dosing. And then we have a 40 milligram for the patients. And also scored, so it can be halved and quartered. So really trying to cover, the entire range of dosing was important to me, but then having a limited SKU on the back end for the manufacturing and ease to get into the market was important as well. You can buy us at Verilife, Cureleaf, and Harvest and Uplift stores.
Okay. And when are you going to be in Ohio? And when are you going to be in Illinois?
And we're launching in Illinois. Right now, the facility is being built out, and I expect to be in market in the 4th quarter of this year.
All right. They sound good. That's interesting. So the medical, you can do the higher dosage. So the 5 milligram I've heard from the medical people, it's just ridiculous because they just can't, it doesn't work for them at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, going back to that endocannabinoid system is unique for every person. So I did notice also there's a perception women really just needed low dose. That's not what my research showed me. Women need a variety of dosing based on their unique needs. So
yeah. And it's just, again, it's conscious consumption. It's, being aware of how your body feels. And it's not just like popping a pill. It is different, but it's overall, if you're taking your medication and being conscious about it, I think you're just going to be healthier. So, so what is you have that, you said smoking. What is really your favorite way to consume cannabis?
I mean, I love the gummy. I love the gummy. 15 minutes, I'm on my way. It's perfect. It's discreet.
Oh, yeah.
This puck-sized package, it snaps shut, child-proof. You're golden. So that's my favorite.
Anyone listening in Ohio, check them out. They're going to be great. And if people just want to connect with you personally, how do they reach you?
Oh, you could email me, Phoebe at goddessgrowers.com, or check out our website, goddessgrowers.com, and there's a contact us.
Awesome. Thank you, Phoebe. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for the products and, educating your community. This is so important. So if you're out there in Illinois and you're looking for somebody good to talk to you, check her out. And that's another show. All right. So thank you. This is for my guest, Phoebe DePree, and of course, my Cannabro, David Jazz, and our Cannamom team. I want to thank you for listening to the Cannamom Show, where we're on a mission to enhance the impact women have on the emerging cannabis industry by sharing and preserving their stories of love, kindness, wisdom, and hope. Thank you for listening and sharing the stories of the amazing women building this industry, so together we will crush that stigma around cannabis and caregivers. I'm your host, Joyce Gerber. This is the Cannamom Show, and we are a production of Pod 617, the Boston Podcast Network.